for a long time to go with the right group. So you can go, but you have to go with the right folks. And so I wanted to always invest, because I named my son Kwame after Kwame Nkrumah. So this is very emotional for me.
It's for all of us.
And I'm really happy because I just set the intention, and Sass showed up, and then Bamani showed up, and then this sister showed up. And I know, Mama Anna, I honor you and the elders here. Because I knew a long time ago, I raised 14 children out of Newark, New Jersey, who are all artists, and my dad's from Colquitt, Georgia. And this is just a transition. Colquitt. Colquitt, Georgia. My mom's from West Palm Beach. But I knew, being a secretary to my godmother going to Jamaica, and how that made me aware and opened me up to the infinite possibilities of education as travel, and listen to Kwame Nkrumah and Patrice Lumumba and all the other people, Pan-Africanism, coming out of Newark, listen to Amiri Baraka and Maulana Karenga, and we thought everybody did Kwanzaa. You know, well, Kwanzaa's every day. And so I know this is for the children, not only for the children, but for me, to open up my consciousness and be the bridge for my family and the other folks that need to go there, and when it's time for them to leave the United States. So I want to thank both you and Bamani for allowing and facilitating all these years, because this, for me, it's a dream come true. You know, and as I get closer, I get more excited. So as I enter the equinox tonight or tomorrow, I'm clearing out everything. Everything that's old, so the new can come in. Because this is a new journey. You know, and the ancestors are, you know, they're doing what they do.
Before we we're going to go on to our segment that encourages everyone to speak about their travels or what their hopes are, and we want to do it in order. You know,
This
remember.
would be a good place to start right there.
Okay, we'll start with her.
Stephanie.
But what I would like to do is say that I was inspired by the movie Sankofa. I don't know if anybody ever saw Sankofa, but when I saw that scene where that sister was standing in front of that slave dungeon, and the door closed behind her, and it took her back in time. It took me back in time too. I couldn't rest until I went to Ghana, and I actually went there to the slave dungeon. Some people even call it slave castle. Insult that can be. You know, at the time I went there, they were considering putting a restaurant there, which I felt like was so. Oh yeah, it's just so disrespectful for the tourists to have some place to. I'm like, you could digest food in a place like this, you know. And also another story that I would like to share with you. I have a friend who lives in Accra, and he grew up. What you guys don't know is just this whole thing about miseducation and making sure our people miss the mark. It's global. It's not just here in America. He grew up in the shadows of the slave dungeons. He knew about them, but you know what he told me? He said it was called the castle, and he thought growing up in Ghana that kings and queens and royalty and people like that lived there. Nobody ever told him, and he grew up right there in Ghana. Nobody ever told him the history of that place. And only when he went, and he's like, in our school system, we knew more about Europe and England than we knew about what was going on in our own country. Because the school system is good, but it doesn't teach us about us, it teaches us about white people, okay? So that's something that you gotta remember also when you go there. But you gotta go because not only is it educational, but you can still feel the presence of our ancestors there. You know, you go down in there, it's just like you really feel like you went back in time. You know, it's I don't know, it's not anything you can verbalize, but if you ever have the opportunity to do it, like, don't wait to get rich or to hit the lottery or whatever. You throw your nickels and dimes aside and just keep it there for that purpose and go, because it's worth it going there on a shoestring budget. You don't have to go large, you know. But I just like to encourage that. So now we're just going to raise our hands And I'll let you two, decide who's gonna speak. Sir, can you go ahead? I'm sorry. She wanted to speak. In the women's history, I'm gonna let her go. And then after you, that gentleman speak, please.
Sounds a bit like mansplaining. I'll start.
Excuse me.
So, everyone knows my mother, but just imagine.
A little bit louder.
Oh, absolutely. I was in elementary school and remember having framed pictures of Jomo Kenyatta to decorate my room in elementary school, and African sculptures on our mantelpiece. I remember as my friends in middle school and high school are being gifted with a trip to find their roots in Europe, the response was, my mother took us to Ghana in 1970. My mother booked a trip to Ghana in 1970. 2 tickets and 3 nights in a hotel, herself. That's it, because we're going. And I'll out my mother now, because she has more than redeemed herself many millions of times over.
Yes, yes.
But she said, we're gonna take this flashlight, because we don't know traveling through the jungles, escaping the lion. If they'll try and put us in a pot. Okay? It's just the honest to God truth, how little we knew. But the longing was there. The underneath faith that this was the thing to do was there.
Yes, yes.
And certainly, once you do that, the ancestors take over. The first day we were there, we met a man who said, well, you can't be staying in a hotel. You came from your family returned. You cannot stay in a hotel. Now, the long version of this story could take all day. I'd love to, but I can't. We got to stay with families. We got to meet people who looked at my mother and started speaking to her. Awu Johnny, and she's like, you know, because we were where our ancestors came from. We were.
Your home.
Spirit brought us to the place.
To the place.
To the place. Okay. 30 years later, I was in Ghana following my daughter, whose 8th grade trip. Thank you, sister, from my heart for everything you do. I find it so important. I can't even, it makes me so emotional, I can't tell you. Because my daughter's 8th grade trip from her school, Kipway's Academy, was to Ghana. And I followed her there, hoping to take her on to her father's ancestral land. But it didn't happen because I found it was more expensive to take her from Ghana to Senegal than it was to go back home and start all over and go from Atlanta to Senegal again. So that didn't happen. But the depth of the trip there was incredible. I'll try and make this just shortcuts. I became obsessed with Brazil. And so I took myself when my son was 2. So that has to be 1980. I met a woman because this Brazilian guy said, oh, there's one of your homegirls. Now, first of all, this could be Brazil right here. This could be Brazil, you know. There's one of your homegirls. I was like, why? Just because, you know. She's my homegirl. What you trying to say? That's the homegirl. So I was like, let me show him. I walked over there. Yeah, So they say, you're my homegirl. She said, well, where you from? I was like, oops. I'm from Brooklyn. Yeah, me too. She was my homegirl.
Brooklyn.
Okay.
Brooklyn in the house.
Okay. Made friends with the sister who had backpacked through the Amazon, held sway at the European hotel. Everybody, every youth there, and she was in her 40s then, she was a grandmother, every youth there was just like kowtowing to the sister. 30 years later, this is Sister Amicus.
Oh, I'm Cusco.
Amicus. I had met her 30 years before in Brazil. Okay. So this is basically the basis of my feeling that the diaspora was never meant to go outward one way. It was meant at some point to come back in on itself. And here we are meeting.
Yes,
so
yes.
then I'd like to just say that the point of traveling, you have to go to Africa. You have to go to, you have to go to
Say it again.
Still, don't feel bad about wanting to go other places. And take yourself other places. Take yourself unexpected places. Go to, I don't care, Mondovia. Go to, because when you go there, you find that we have a stake in each one of those places as well. We have a history. We have a stake. We have a right. We have a part in that place being what it was also. So we are citizens of the world. This little education, this little view here, this little thing we get from the media is busted when you go up into other places and they look at you and they're like, oh, we recognize you. Oh, when you look on the walls and see the ancients drew us.
Yes, yes.
And they acknowledge that as, yes, this is our ancestor here. So this little media vision is busted when you go see for yourself. So take yourself there. Those pennies become the best in you. Ooh, you'd be like, no, I don't need to go out to dinner. I don't need that extra. I can walk with these shoes. Wait a second. Look how it's growing. Ooh, and there's nothing better. Nothing.
Thank you. Thanks,
My name is Rado. I'm a spiritual teacher with my fiance and I go to second with L.
Yes,
And,
yes.
Pretty much, the reason why we're here, we're not planning to just tour Africa. We believe that in the time that's coming forward, that there will be a mass exodus. This is what my man said over here. But I believe that we are here because this is a divine appointment. And those people who have a service and a work, they have been doing it, all right? But now this is the time where we all have to step forward. And so what I do is I teach an old sacred language. It was something that we used in our homeland, which is Africa. But we use the Ayabra, or we call the all-seeing eye. And this is a sacred language that teaches, it allows the elders to be elders. It allows the parents to be true parents of the community. All right, but this is something that we forgot how to do, we forgot how to organize. And we don't even know how to do it within our families. And so my divine mission on this planet, and I got this dream back in about 2011. We're from a family where we all dream, all right? And we've been following our dream.
Good, good.
All right? And so my dream was I was a Hebrew priest who came to me. And he told me that if I wanted to save humanity, I needed to go to South Africa, all right? And so what my divine mission is since, this is in 2011, so I've been slowly, steadily walking this path. It's been long, and you don't even know the people who's going to help you until you come within the Wi-Fi, until you've gotten to the location, you've taken the risk, you've searched as far as you can. And I've been all over the country. I've been to San Diego, to Florida, and just to let you know how sincere I've been with this path is, when the dream was given to me, I gave up everything. Right? That means that at the time when family is breaking down and your career and everything, that's how I've served this vision, where I've been searching for these people or this pastor and even the people who are supposed to come along with me. But the reason why I'm speaking now is because in Africa, what we wanting to do is that even though we have the conversation sparked, right, I believe we have to come to a point where we are active and we're building, we're doing something. And I would say king and queens build things, right? And so if we want to be back at our royal selves, where we are in front of people and we have the best lands and we have the ocean front and we have the woods and we have the jungle, we have all that, right? We have to build something. But I do believe that what we have to prepare for is this mass exodus. And I believe that what we have to establish is our first enlightened community. And I think it's going to take a lot of our old teachings and some of these people who are coming from the subconscious of the collective to the forefront of the collective to present this. And there are people out there with rare jewels that are here to teach us, but it's not going to happen in America. We've tried it here. There's been many Messiah-like people who come, who spoke and said, let's go back. Right? There's been Malcolm X, there's all these people that said, let's go back. But I do think what we have to utilize is what our oppressors been using. They use good marketing, they build things like Disney World, they build all types of things that we are attracted to. So it seems like that is the one solution that we have to do. We got to be past the talk because we have a movement for one day and we have no progress for a year. Right? So we have to get to that point that when we are building this mass exodus, that we build a template that can be established all over Africa. So units, right? Units, communities can come, right? And we can start to build again and start to teach our children the true sciences of Africa. And I think the one basic skill that we need to learn is the human psyche, right? How to be intuitive with time. This is how we survive. All right, this is how we survive amongst men. This is how we're able to trial the 7 seas of consciousness, which is being able to navigate amongst people. All right, so if we're an ocean of water and we all are trying to get to places, then we got to know how to be able to circulate and move through each other effortlessly with no problem. And the problem that we have now, today, even amongst other races, is human relations. And we don't truly understand what it takes to build consciousness or to know what it is to be able to manage it. And so we have to get down to those home sciences, the sciences of parenting, the sciences of being a boss, but just the sciences of managing. And if we can establish that one community, all right, one, and that's what it says, all it takes is to turn on one light bulb, right? This is, what was it, Alexander Graham Bell, right? He took that one, but it was many tries, but he got the one light bulb to work, all right? And so we've tried many solutions in America, all right, but the whole goal is to get one light bulb to work. All right, and so that's what we're trying to do, and hopefully, if you want to connect with Bomani, we've been talking with the elder, the priestess, sister, all right, we've been speaking with her, and we've been trying to gain momentum, all right, and one thing that we do have is resources are coming, all right, so that lets me know that I'm in divine order, all right, and the dreams and the things that I've been following is not a fluke, because the Spirit is supporting me. All right, so that's the one thing. I'm not a person who's meant to follow any religion. I'm just following my spirit. And if I'm serving my Creator, then that's all that matters. I don't want nobody between that. All right, so that's between me and my Creator. But I know that my spirit and my soul is I've already given it up. It's not mine no more. All right. So I'm here as someone who's meant to serve a lot of people, but I need to support and the people with resources. And the people who are willing enough to fight. Because for me, when I got that vision, I didn't follow anything else this system had to say to me from that point forward. Right? I walked my path, and I believe that my Creator will feed me my daily bread, and He has fulfilled His wishes. So for me, since I know that that is true and is real in my life, all right, then I know that the people around me that come to me, all right, the people who are there to build this future, this template, that heaven will be established on earth. It will be established. And there's got to be people who are here who are concrete on that word, because words manifest real things. And if you don't have that concreteness to walk, all right, to plant your feet everywhere you go, then it's not going to happen. But I know that these type of movements start in rooms like this. Sometimes they start in it starts in apartments and closets, but it has to start here, and we have to start building active steps and start to find those people with visions that's supported by God. All right, and so I'll leave it at that, but we'll be giving out our card, and anyone who has help or resources, we want to talk with you, because we know that this is a future that can happen. We already have land that's been given to us, so we already know now it's just about building. And so now we're talking about touring, but what's the next step after touring if you want to stay there?
Right.
So,
Thank you. Two things I just want to acknowledge the presence of the brother and the Queen, Sekhmet?
Yes, Hathor.
Yeah, I just met them yesterday. You know how energy lines up. We did a live interview, and I just really want to acknowledge you coming in and generously sharing. What I'm hearing, family, is you may want to make sure you get their card. Brother has special gifts that may be available to benefit, and sister, they're one, you and your family. He gave me an excellent utterance of language that uplifted me and gave me clarity around what I already know from the inside out. Yeah, and it's not uncommon for us to have spiritual gifts. What's sometimes a little bit not as useful to is actually following and acting out and, again, taking the appropriate actions at the appropriate time. And so that's a very beneficial service that I really appreciate. Whatever it takes to stand up in our community and say, this is what I have to offer. This is how I'm availing myself. Yes, this is great. Tourism works. But the plan, clarity of purpose is very key. Believe me, I'm a scribe. I write stuff down and do this. But at the same time, when you get that impulse from your inside out, you can trust it. And thank you for trusting yourself to show up in a group of folks that you just met yesterday and and rearrange your schedule to get here. So we definitely want to make sure that we exchange that information. And sister, if you want to say, and then we're going to keep it moving because everybody, we want you to actually have the space to be heard as we've been heard. Whomever. Keep it popping.
Hello, hi.
Hey.
I just wanted to say thank y'all. I'm very humbled. I think I'm maybe the youngest person in the room.
Please say your name too.
I'm Seven Kalia. I work really closely with Hathor and Rael and Brother Bomani. I actually have a son named Bomani.
Yes,
but I just wanted to stand up and say that I'm extremely thankful to be here. I received the call that it's time for me to make my exit from Babylon, America. I'm only 24, so I got the message pretty soon.
Sooner the
But
better.
I'm really on a mission to bring more holistic awareness to women in regards to their reproductive organs and how we birth our babies and things of that nature.
Good.
I have 2 children. I have a 4-year-old baby girl and a 1-year-old son, and they don't receive any vaccinations. Mm-hmm. And it's just more about bringing the womb health to women. And I'm doing this, the yoni pearls right now with a lot of herbs just to clear the wound and to clear the womb space and the aura and things of that nature. Yeah. So that is something that I'm really trying to get out. And I really wanted to ask you a question of how do you think you can target more of the youth and more women, young women my age?
That's a great question. When you say youth, what's your age? What age?
Just, the child birthing age, 19 to 30. A lot of even women older than me have no clue about, how vital the placenta is and all things of that nature.
I would, because I come out of Boys and Girls Clubs environment, I would start with after school programs.
I think I agree.
And
younger.
We have a sister who does some of that. And but because that's one of your age populations, and of course, after school programs are in our communities for Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Atlanta, and they're headquartered here, the Boys and Girls Clubs for North America. So you've got a lot of youth that you could access through after school programs, or that are your age group, young sisters, because I was able to access a lot of young people through the Boys and Girls Clubs, and I'd be glad to. That's just one off the top.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, but continue to do what you're doing, sister, because here's the thing. My daughter's your age. She'll be a quarter on April 9th. She's an Aries. Okay? And we realize that our children are watching us, and you're our daughter. And it's how we walk, the example we set. And you really honor us by showing up and staying in this conversation. Let's give us some things. You're raising children in a holistic way, so the main thing is let folks know just like you did, just what you did, and after this whole, believe me, you're going to get some energy coming to say like whatever. But yeah, continue to market yourself as such. You're beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Mama Anna, would you like to say something?
No, I'm being shy today.
I had to acknowledge Mama Anna because she gave me some wisdom all the time she does, and I've gotten better. It's like kind of asking her things like, my mom transitioned in 2000. Miss Bessie was 83, and she's an ancestor that's ever available to me and gives me much guidance. Well, when I want physical, Mama and Mama Anna's my other mother, we've rolled together a lot. We were at the Million Woman March in Philly years ago when Winnie Mandela and everybody, we'll get in a van with Stephanie, my twin, and we'll roll out. But she said something that is worth repeating, I think, because a lot of times, and Bamani started this conversation yesterday, we work a lot, and some people say, are you in the slave system right now? We're punching clocks, we're working past retirement, trying to get health services, prison industrial complexes going on, and yada, yada, yada. And then at the end of the day, it's like, is this slavery?
Absolutely.
Is this another plantation that's manifesting and got a hold on me, and I'm just gonna work my way from this end to this end and yada, yada, yada. But it was a great inquiry to be in. We're not gonna like say yes or no right now, but out of that, it just came clear, brother, what you said, is that we do have to have a plan. So let us know what it is, like with Mama Anna. She told me that she retired when she was 50 and started like about 6 other businesses. She did. See, when you punch in a clock, and I do, until I unpunched it on Thursday.
Say that again.
You see, in other words, we get to choose, and like my sister said, she took 7 years and did this. In other words, all I'm saying, and then I want to hear from whoever wants to talk about the travel experience too, is that you're the thinker that's thinking your thoughts, that's creating your things. I'm the thinker that's thinking the thoughts that's creating my life, you see. I'm not at the effect of it. I don't want to be in a victim conversation with anyone. I'd rather empower you. We're not at the effect. We're at the top, actually, irregardless of what it looks like. You know, turn the TV off. We don't have them in our home for years now. Come on. Yeah, because see, I'm not saying that you don't have to watch your favorite shows like that. That's your call. But at the end of the day, it's either going to be fear or faith.
Faith.
Yeah, it's either going to be fear or faith. You're either going to be totally unafraid, totally, serious, I'm talking for me. Or you're going to be like doubting and worrying and fearful and back and forth and double dutching with the emotions about the fall of America. If she falls down all the way, just get your passport, folks. Raise your hand if you got your passport.
Holla!
Yeah, good. Y'all in the right room. Okay, I'm stopped talking. Who said they want to go
Oh,
next?
let me just speak
the brother,
for the shy
the
one
brother,
here, just to make a point.
sister.
Make the point. She retired,
Thank you.
and it was 2 days, 3
No,
days.
the
The next day, she went to Egypt.
That was
Now,
the thing.
now you talk about fear of faith. I was there. I know that, yes, all of that. And then still as retiring, what's it going to be like? That's okay. I can get a job at the 5 and 10 if I have to. So I'm just talking about the unknown out before you. Next they went to Egypt. I know it was that trip that ordered the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Step out. You never know. Step out.
Thank you, Stephanie.
I'll explain
But
that.
she has a question.
I went to Egypt.
Can you hear? Okay, it's coming back to you, Sister Mama Anna. Stop it, and then definitely. Thank you.
I went to Egypt. I had 2 degrees that I had earned, and I felt I knew a few things. I looked at the Sphinx. I wish I had brought my pictures. What we recognize as the Sphinx is a stylized picture. When you see the Sphinx, tears start coming out of your eyes because no one poses like that. It's a black woman. And I'm looking at it and I'm saying, well, I see is something else. I don't see this stylized picture. As I walk through the temple and the tombs of the ancient Egyptians, woman, they show scenes of their daily life. Everybody is, wow. And I said, and why did they paint themselves brown? I couldn't get it in my head. And the guy was no help. He said, well, that's the only color they could make. And that was a good answer, because I said, no, I see purple and green and yellow and all. So they could paint what they were, but they painted themselves brown.
They were brown.
Black folk.
And then you got your true education. After I saved money my parents spent educating me, because of the place. We went to Tutankhamun's tomb, and they went to a big production of this little golden bird. They found it in the tomb. They found it early in the 19th century. However, it wasn't until we rediscovered flight that we said, oh, the wings on this bird are aerodynamically correct. It's a plane. However, the Egyptians were very precise. If it were a bird, you would have seen some indication of feathers.
Teeth, sister,
You would
teeth.
have seen where your feet were going. You would have seen the beak. This is what I did to the And then as you look at it and accept it, which why we have so much trouble understanding history.
Teeth.
Because the European doesn't accept anything because not understand.
That's right.
And to understand P.A. and Britain.
Yes.
Because I'm a product of their education.
Teeth,
I
man, teeth. Teeth, sister.
And I said, okay, I'm gonna have to clear my mind of all that and learn for myself. When it was done, I didn't go for any particular reason. I went because the trip was cheap. I didn't have any wonderful ideas in life. I wanted to go and I found out how much we've lost. Because in Ghana, your number one identity is your tribe. Your second identity is the fact that you're African. And your third identity is the country you were born in. And that should be third, because that changes with time. We got there, my brother and I, and they say, who are you people? And I go, I don't know. How could you answer that? How could you not know? And that puzzles me.
Yeah.
The next person, who are you people? I don't know. I was staying at a hotel, and this young man who was into everything, he told me, you can't stay here, you'll never learn anything about Africa. You must stay with your family. I said, well, I don't know anybody. When I went into the country, I stopped at this woman's house. She was sitting under a lime tree in her garden, very nice place. And he's talking to her. They all talk 3 and 4 languages. And it's not offensive, because they are so hospitable that you know they're not talking about you. They're just communicating with children even. And with that, she burst into English and she said, I can't charge her anything. She's my sister. Because he was the kind, he wanted a little something. Anyway, full of love. No husband. And I just knew she was poor. Because here, a woman with that, oh, okay. So I said to my daughter, let's not do that. We'll, you know, because I knew she didn't have enough food for us. So we'll get up, we'll go out, because down the road was some parking, we could stay there. And then we'll get back for the day, we would have dinner with them, so it was fine. That went on fine. One day she says to me, would you like to go to my work flight? I don't see her getting it at 9, and it's at 5. I said, yes, I'd like to go with her. She has to drive us way out in the country. Get to this big open field, there's a fence around it, and I don't know anything. I think it's a farm, but nothing's growing. Oh my God. So I said, so what do you do here? She said, oh, this is one of my gold mines.
Gold,
Diamond
diamond mine?
Diamond
Diamond mine?
Diamond.
That was the diamond mine.
Diamond.
Diamonds.
And I was like, what do you say after that?
And nothing.
And I did ask her, how do you get the diamonds? And she goes, I remember on that trip, and I didn't know the meaning of it until many years later when I got educated and children. I was lying on the Bali Beach in Ghana, and I saw stuff sparkling in the sand. But I come from the East Coast, where we go to the beach every weekend, and if you see anything sparkling in the sand, it's broken glass. So I said, let me get up and get out of here before I start bleeding and die before I could go. And I crept away and never saw it again. It wasn't until
Thank you.
I came
Rhoda,
back
did you want to say
from
something
the
before you
trip
go?
to Egypt.
Please.
Fire.
Excuse me, before these two ladies exit, excuse me, Mama Anna, if Rhoda, Dr. George did not want to say anything, but if you want to say something before you exit, we would appreciate it, and we'll just put a pause in, and we're going to come back, we're going to be getting in for a while.
I want to say that I certainly appreciate the energy that brought us together, the energy that we have generated being together. It feels like home. And it's so great to see some familiar faces and other new faces that I hope to see again. I'm Rhoda Martin, and a longtime resident of Atlanta, and now in a suburb of Atlanta. But I see some faces that I see almost every day at Darnell, so I know I come back. This is close to home, not quite, but we've all got the right direction. Wonderful, wonderful session.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. And thank you all, and even as you exit, thank you for signing in and making sure we have your info.
Okay, what was the shiny stuff on the beach?
Back to you, please.
Yes, ma'am.
The
What was
sister
the
in
shiny stuff
the
on the
back,
beach?
please,
Yeah.
we're gonna refrain from people who haven't spoken yet. We do wanna go back and introduce yourself
Her story
and
for
then
sure.
share whatever you'd like to share.
I just had something quick to say. The energy, everybody keeps talking about that energy, and I know it's just that divine feminine energy that's in this room, and I'm just so thankful for it. And I'm standing up because I'm inspired. And I met, and I want to say Mother says, I met her yesterday, and I felt that just through one question was this connection. So even when she's emotional, I'm getting emotional. When Mama Anna is talking, I'm getting emotional because I'm just in tune into all that energy, and I'm inspired. I've been on my journey, but I have never traveled outside of the country. So this is inspiration to me. On my spiritual journey with my fiance, Rael, it has just been us going all around the country. So I can only imagine what it would be like to be international. And that is my goal, and even hearing about the one mother, the one lady with the international company with her husband, it's like, that is like a muse to me now. Now I want to go and research it so I can understand it and fully try to embody it. And I talked to Sister Sass yesterday, and she was just talking about, we were talking about being and sitting at elders' feet, and being able to sit at the elders' feet like Mama Anna, being able to sit at their feet and take in and absorb on that. So I'm just absorbing this all. I'm absorbing all this divine feminine energy, and it's giving me that inspiration. I'm a mother of 7, so it's giving me that inspiration to go.
Mama 7.
I'm homeschooling them right now, and I'm getting them right, so when we get over there, we know how to respect the people, we know how to deal with the people. But I'm glad I came. And I'm inspired, and I just want to say to all the women in the room, thank you. To all the black men in this room, thank you. And I do have some questions for you.
Thank you, beloved.
Hi, I snuck in because I heard people clapping, and I said, I'm inquisitive, I used to be called nosy. I said, what's going on here? And I was talking about black women traveling internationally, and I thought, let me sit down and just listen, and I'm really glad that I did because the Spirit leads you. I was coming here to do a little success thing for my grandchildren in school around civil rights, and I stopped in the library, and so I'm at the right place. And I just want to say, I work at the Shrine of Black Madonna, so I work in the bookstore. And,
wonderful.
This is wonderful. I recently moved here, and I am an international traveler.
Awesome.
And it started out with having some fear about traveling because you don't know how you're going to be received elsewhere because you know how you're received here.
Yeah.
And then when you travel, a whole new world is open to you. And so I continued that because those experiences, they can take away material things, but your experiences, they're with you forever. So with that in mind, I started traveling and then decided to go where we are in the diaspora. And that's just about everywhere. So that's my goal, and that's what I'm doing.
Where was your most wonderful travel to thus far? What really lit you up? And
well, I was in Peace Corps, Brazil for 3 years. So being there and seeing the connections and the differences started me traveling. From there went to Europe and then went to Egypt. No, didn't go to Egypt last year. Came back and then wanted to go to the continent with my husband, and we ended up going through Kemet to Egypt and then down overland through on Dura Green Sacks. So we backpacked.
Good.
And,
okay.
So we really did stay with the people and get to experience in a way you don't when you're in hotels. So they would pick us up. We were on the side of the road in, where were we? Zaire. And they went by, nobody picked us up, truck went by, we sitting on the side of the road, and I thought, we may be spending the night here. Then a car came by, stopped, and picked us up, and said, what if you're still gonna be here, and took us home. And we stayed, I think, for a week.
Wow.
And that just happened to us continually as we traveled. And they would say, where are you from? And we'd say another part of Africa, and they would say yes, because it's so vast. And they would just welcome us in. And I think my most cultural exchange has been with Kenya. From a cultural reconnection, a group of women went and met with elders in Nairobi, Kenya, and came back. Long story short, we looked for what our retentions are, and we found out what eldership meant, and elders in training. So I think from a spiritual and a understanding of who we are and how we move in the world, came from that cultural reconnection. We connected with women in all different kinds of professions, and some we met with Raila, who was running for president with his family, and up in the northern part. So we slept in the bush, out in the bush. So I had experiences from sleeping. Oh, nice hotel, indoor plumbing too.
Yes.
I got to get up and take my flashlight and run to the outside. But see, I grew up without houses, so I used to it. But that to me was the most inspirational because I found out the women's role in the revolution in Kenya and their place in it. And then there were women's working with women's groups with around AIDS and the loss of the men and bringing women together to work. So it was very educational and inspirational and inspiring. Shows you what you can do with very little and be happy and successful. So on that note, I'm sorry I can't stay.
Excuse me, before you go, did you have any business card? Are you signed in?
I'm retired, honey, and
We want to know how to link up with you.
But I did, I signed in.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
What's your name?
My name is, well, my church name is Amanika.
Gifted.
Thank you. Yeah, come to the shrine. Yes, I work on Fridays, I'm there on Sundays, so in fact, I just come from church now, so please come by.
Peace be unto you. Jimmy Softly.
And I don't know more about you all, so I did.
Absolutely. Next.
Okay, so wait. What was the shiny thing on the beach?
Yeah.
We gotta get back to that story. She's right in the end of that.
Labadi Beach, the shiny stuff.
Okay. I left and I forgot about it.
Okay.
But it was many years later. I had gone to Egypt. And when I came back, I was on fire. Because there were so many things I wanted to do. And I was home like a week. And I heard on the radio about that. And he said he needed a secretary from the Queen Court. Went to the telephone book, found his address, wrote him a letter, took it to his house, dropped it in his mailbox. No. A couple of weeks later, a friend of mine was giving a rehearsal, and she invited him to speak. I went to that event, and I cornered him on the buffet table, and I said, I'm the lady that wrote the letter. I heard you on the radio, and I volunteered my services to the court. So he said, well, since you know where I live. That's the kind of man he was. Next Thursday at 2 o'clock, you come to my house and we'll talk about it. Next Thursday at 2 o'clock, there I was. He cordially invites me in, perfect Southern Shepherd, sits me down, and leans over to me very closely and says, don't you know there's something professional to volunteer? Well, that was like sticking a marble rose in. I said, it's okay, but we're not going to quibble about it. Whatever. Well, that started. I've had some good jobs in my life. That started the most wonderful job. Because I learned. I learned about myself, I learned about my history. I learned about African fathers. You know, they say if you don't know what you've been, you have no idea what you can become. And I learned what was sparkling in the shadow. He told me about that. He said when the Portuguese came around the Guinea coast, there were boulders of gold sitting on the beach. And it blew their minds. So they confiscated all the men and had them take the boulders and they built a slave castle and put the boulders in. And that's where the door of no return is located. Wow.
The castle's name is Elmina.
Elmina.
The mine.
And they were so impressed with how hardworking people were that they introduced them to their system that they had in Europe. Because they had slavery in Europe for centuries. And here were hardworking people. And they introduced them to the Americas where they needed free labor. But the remnants of that gold is still in the North Sea. And I don't have the courage to go back. I think I'm safe. But I learned a lot of it. I learned that the Ghanaians wrote a book on hospitality. They are so hospitable in a way that you're not accustomed to. They'll see you waiting on the corner and they'll stop their car and they'll see you away. Oh, I come from America, I'm getting in that car. If you go to their house at any time during the day, within 2 hours of the meal, it's insulting to them if you leave before you join them. I'm not accustomed to that. In America, please go so we can have our dinner. There are so many things. We are not ready to go and assimilate.
Yeah. Before Edgar leaves, excuse me one more time, as people get up to leave, I'm asking them, and I'll excuse me, because they've been so patient with the whole day with us too, just to acknowledge who you are and what your travel interest may be, whatever you want to say, Edgar Baines. I'm so glad.
Okay, well, my name is Edgar Baines, and no, I've not been to Ghana. It is my goal. I've been out of the United States, I've been to Canada, Jamaica, Mexico, but I'm like, and the more I hear Sass speak, I've heard Sass speak so much in the past talk about Ghana, I'm like, I got to know more about my roots. And then I heard both of these ladies speak right here today. And the information that they have disseminated out here, I really hope Bomani puts this on YouTube, because we're talking about, I just put some candy in my mouth.
It's all right, take your time though.
I don't have any teeth that's falling out, but anyway. But anyway, yeah, I hope you put this on YouTube, on Facebook, because our young people need to know about what this information that they've disseminated. You really do. I don't care if it's the whole thing, the part of it. I know they charge if it's X amount, if it's over a certain amount, and all that, you know. But I do hope you all put this on YouTube, because that's the way, I think, to reach the unreached and the new generation.
Yes.
That is definitely the way. You talk about YouTube, you talk about Facebook, put it out there. Put it out there and put it, and that would, I think that would increase a lot of, people need to know about this. They really do. And I thank you so much for all the information you presented, you know, that you've shared, everyone has shared here, and thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Can I ask you something?
Yes, go ahead.
You know, I have to make this known, because Edgar has he has many different gifts and skills. So at this moment, just share with the community, the one that I really want to talk about is that one. He's a gifted one, and we have in our community special skilled artists and scientists and communicators, and we don't want you to be shy about your businesses and what you have to offer, because someone right here may be needing them like right now.
Well, in addition to a musician and an artist, I teach sign language.
He's one of the best.
So and I love to communicate with the deaf, you know, because that's another community that's not reached. You know. So hopefully, you know, if they, or when they, you know, when you put it on YouTube, that you put some writing underneath that the deaf, that it will reach the deaf as well. You know.
That's what we always do.
We want to do that.
That's what we always do. People just got to be open to reading.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, and thank you for allowing me.
Thank you. Much love.
Okay.
And I just also wanted to piggyback something for nice to meet you, by the way.
My blessing.
Yes.
Give me a hug.
I just wanted to say, I started kind of losing my mind in America when I realized like how they poison our water and how pretty much everything we eat is poisoned, and you know, no adequate air and etc. But I just wanted to say that within our Enlightened community, because we do have about a little over 50 acres in Ghana right now, and we are trying to build an Enlightened community to move away from the system of the matrix and teach our kids spiritual education, more in a spiritual way, you know what I mean? And not more so of the education that we're being taught here, which is half education. So we're trying to present a new platform of a way of life for our people, getting back to living in harmony with nature, because she is our mother and we are her children, we are her, you know what I mean? And we have become very inhumane. We have developed that from the Caucasians, from the white man, just the killing and the brutalizing and eating of these animals. You know what I mean? It's so brutal and it's so heartless. And it's just all about making the youth aware of who and what we are. And how we vibrate at such a high frequency that we should only be eating high vibrational foods. Foods that come straight off the tree. No, we shouldn't have to kill any animals. The white man can eat a dead animal and sustain because they don't vibrate at the same frequency that we vibrate. So it's just all about bringing this awareness of self back to the youth and back to our children within this community. So we are going to be looking for educators, mathematicians, spiritual teachers, a wide variety of people to all bring their parts of the puzzle into the picture. Because we're hoping that this is going to open up the floodgates for everybody to start realizing that no, we are not free in America. This is modern day slavery. If somebody can come and tell me that they could take my baby away because I don't want to vaccinate my baby, that is not freedom. You know what I mean? And I kind of almost, lost my mind a bit when I found out about the birth certificates. How when you sign your baby's birth certificate, you literally sign them over as the property of the government. So they're not our kids, they're just in our care. And this is why the government is allowed to take our babies away. And a lot of women don't even know that your child is not obligated to have a birth certificate or a social security number. We are stocks on the stock market. We have a price tag on us. That's literally what we are. Like cattle, in a sense. But a lot of us, we feel like we are free. You know what I mean? So I think it's all about bringing that educational awareness to the youth, my age range. Because a lot of us, we are lost. We are so lost in materialism and, I want to be fly and I want bundles and we're not focused on the spiritual and the mental of it. You know what I mean? So this is most definitely going to be a movement. We most definitely want to build this enlightened community from the earth, living in perfect harmony with the earth, not developing any karma from the earth and doing her any harm. Because the animals, they're our neighbors. They're not our freaking food. If we're alive and living, we don't eat dead things. You know what I mean? So it's just all about educating and getting our sense of self back and our knowledge of self. And we used to live to be 150 years old. You know what I mean? We should be getting that back and teaching children that eating these animals are not the way. Teaching these young mothers that no, you do not have to vaccinate your child. You know what I mean? Because my children are not vaccinated and they are healthy. I nursed my son for like a whole year until he started getting mannish, So I just wanted to put that out there about what we're looking for. We're looking for, anybody who can contribute anything. We want them to be a part of this because we are all family. And it's all about getting back home.
And just to add, Long, I'm not going to be too long, but I do think that we look at, as you were talking about that on the water, you noticed that it was gold, and that the mind that you have is a diamond mind. And we are going to evolve past the point of materialism, right? And materialism, it means that we're going to start using those things of those golds and those diamonds for the properties that they're here for on Earth, which is to conduct energy and actually to sustain energy, to be able to use it for its actual purpose on Earth, not just wearing it. Right? That's the lowest form of existence, is if we're still into fashion and we're still awed by the brightness, the flashes and the glimmer and all that. We have to get to the point where when we are developing our children, we see them as the diamonds that's going to build the communities, that's going to come up with the genius inventions that's going to take us into the future. And I think that if we start to see that each one of us are a seed, and it takes energy, and it takes energy from the sun to radiate that seed, to transform, to mutate, to produce the thing that it's supposed to produce. And so we need those people with high energy who are ready to give that to our children so they can take bloom. And that's not happening. Our teachers are so tired down that they don't have that type of energy to make children excited about learning. As what a lot of you said about Africa, that the children are excited to learn. And I think it's that we have to bring the excitement back to learning and see them as the diamonds. You know, we need to get away from the jewelry and rocking that, but we need to see them as the jewels, the diamonds that we're rocking in the community. So I just want to say that, and that's more so the reason why we're pushing so hard for people to see this vision. It doesn't take flight if we can't see it, right? And the seeing is the flight to traveling, to transporting an idea from from the imagination and the dream world to this world. We got to have some of those people who are willing to go deep, to go for that bomb. There's some people who want to run the ball all day, but I'm a quarterback. I like to throw shots at the end zone. I want to win the game, and I believe that if we can see this, because I believe our precious believe that we can't have an enlightened community. I think this is what they laugh at us about. I think when we look at the movie Get Out, right? The movie Get Out is about a community of white people who somehow come into the possession of black men and black people, and they somehow possess their consciousness. Right? And so, I feel like now if consciousness is what you're fighting for, then we need to win the consciousness. We need to win the battle of consciousness. We need to show that if Hitler could try to prove this point that he can build a superior man, then we got to just knock him out the park. Right? And we have people here that can teach us so many different angles. Right? But the one thing that we have to learn is consciousness from scratch. Right? And if we can master the basics, right? It's what your grandmama, all your elders gonna tell you, that if you can't make it from scratch, you can't cook. Right? So that's the level of maturity we got to get to, is that when we're able to look at a child and see them for what they are, but also see it from such an angle of a view where it allows you depth of perception. So we got to have those teachers who are willing to teach the mechanics of civilization, the mechanics of life, right, in order for us to sustain. I'll leave it at that.
Let's go ahead and give that, and then
you know what?
Excuse me, once you give that and get that, then those who want that can have that.
Okay.
Because you.
What I've done before, I used to guard this knowledge. I didn't just give it to anybody. So this is something I could have easily gotten rich on for a long time. And I've held this knowledge in the code. I held it during poverty. I've had people come to me to even get into politics, just because if you can speak and you can do that, they want you to use it for that world. And so I've reserved my abilities to be able to teach it to those people who truly want to build life. And so now what we've been doing, we've just been marketed right now. We've been in Atlanta for a short period of time, maybe 3 weeks.
He has international students in Australia, Canada. We have a good amount of students, but we will be starting a new class in April. So we need to finish up the first class of the Howard students, and then we'll be going into April.
And what the class entails is that when we're learning about consciousness, we're learning about your eyes and ears, all right? And so
much more.
It's kind of like when you watch TV, there's audio and there's audio and video, there's a plugin for audio and visual, right? And so there's some keys of knowledge that belongs to the left part of our brain, right? And what it is the basic lines. It's like when we go outside and we look at a plant, for some reason when we go out there, we can look at signs to see that there's life. We need to clip it over here, we need to do certain things. But we've lost that art of being able to look at our children the same way. To be able to look at them so intimately that you can see the crevices and things changing on their face, to see exactly how your children is forming, just like a plant. And so when I teach these skills, this knowledge that allows you intuition and insight based on how they're developing as an organism, right? What it allows you to do is to be intuitive with their growth. You can foresee certain changes, and you can actually be a judge of if they have a full consciousness, meaning that they're able to receive information and they know how to give it back out. Right? And that's what we call presence. To be a present, that when just like if we look at our internet, when we're trying to upload a video, it's buffering. Right? We need to be real live. We need to be real time. Right? When I'm watching you as an animal, where I'm intimately engaged with you. I'm even intimately engaged in your silence. All right? And so that's what it means, that when I look at you, you may think that you're not projecting anything, but we're always projecting something. All right? And there's people who can read that. And
do you have a website or a card?
Yeah, we do have a website and we do have a card. Right? And so I've been teaching and been gardening for a very long time. But everyone who I've ever taught this class, they feel like they got the cheat codes to life because pretty much any room you come into, any person I see, I can pretty much define your character, know exactly how to cater my information to you, and know exactly how to be in your presence, right? Because we all have, our light precedes us, so we all have a light that we like to project. And some of us got shade, so we need to stay away, but we got to be able to know these things so we can be able to move about and connect with our family. All right, so, and family doesn't mean we look alike. Sometimes some people are negative, right, and they ain't family yet. They ain't quite there. But those people who have consciousness, we want to make them family and try to grow something. And we grow things with nutrients.
Good piece, brother. Good piece.
Thank you.
Again, thank you. We're actually preparing to wrap it up shortly, but what we want to begin and complete as well as we began. I would like for those individuals who haven't shared their information and are interested in sharing before we formally go. Lorraine, those individuals who are present, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and particularly Lorraine, who I know is a flight attendant for like 30 years, forever, flying all over the world. I'm so glad you're here, Lorraine. Please just share whatever you want to share. And good brother as well, we'd love to meet you.
And if you can come on up by SAS.
Sorry, I'm late. All right, you guys, so I was a flight attendant with Delta Airlines for 30 years. I am retired now. I retired when I was 52. And listening to the stories about everybody traveling, it's exactly like they said. And you've got to get out of your American frame of mind when you travel. Because like I forgot your name, so sorry. Mama Anna said, I'm from America, I wouldn't get in the car with anybody I don't know. But you have to step out on faith in another place because you are not here. And it's not this way everywhere. It is so different everywhere else, and that's what you learn when you're traveling. Is that people are so different from, their system is so different from what it is like over here. Okay, this is the only place I know where it's like this, except maybe in, like Russia or Germany. But other than that, people are really nice. They're real helpful, and they will do things for you. They do, because they're so excited that you have come to their country. And they want to know all about it. And what is it like for you? When Clinton, this is my favorite story about knowing what people think about us. And you learn that when you're traveling. I was in Japan when Clinton was going through that deal without Monica Lewinsky. The Japanese, and the American, the English speaking people, they have written these Americans are just so stupid. We have presidents of the country everywhere. We sleep with everybody, anytime, all the time. Why? He didn't even get any. He got both sides. And they are tripping. I mean, they're going to impeach him. They're going to and they're like, what? What is the matter with them? That shouldn't even have made the news. Much less be a big deal, and you want to impeach the man about something as simple as a blowjob. They were like, but it's wonderful to go other places. It really is. I have been to Africa several times. I've been to Dakar, which is in Senegal. I've been to their door of no return. And when you get there, it is just amazing. When you are landing, you're like, oh my God. I'm home. When you get off the plane, you want to kiss the ground.
Yes.
I was there 10 days. When I got ready to leave, I didn't leave. But I had to leave. I had to come back. I stayed for 10 days. I had a great time. I met a lot of interesting people. They are just as interested in knowing about you as you are knowing about them. So please go somewhere, anywhere. It doesn't matter. I've been to Europe. I've been to Asia. I've been to Africa. I've been to South America. I mean, I took that job so that I could see the world. And I tried my best for 30 years to see as much as I could. I went to London for a day. The people are like, so when's you in? I was like, did I? When are you leaving tomorrow? Why are you leaving tomorrow? I said, I can come here anytime I want to for free or damn near free. I don't have to come here and stay a week to see if I like. I can come and see what I can see today. I'm going to go home tomorrow and I'm going to sit down and look at my pictures, think about what I did, and decide then if I want to come back and stay longer. Because I can come back and I will stay longer another time if I like it. But, so that was the way I traveled, and I really enjoyed it. And saw a lot of things. And, learned a lot of things about other people, other cultures, all of that.
Come with us.
Learned about taking care of your body. That young lady is gone who was talking about her placenta and all that.
Yes.
But, for those of us who didn't have children, I may not have children, I'm not, but, you know what I'm saying? You still learn a lot of things about your body. Like in Japan, they still go to the bathhouse. Everybody has a bathroom in their house these days, over there too. But when they were growing up, they didn't. And so they had a toilet and a baseball, and they had to go down the street to the bathhouse to take a bath. Now, the older people are still doing that. The younger people are like, oh, I don't have a bathroom in my room. I wish I would go to the bathhouse. But it is fun, it's good for your body, it's better than taking a shower alone, you know. They're separated, you know, the men are over there in another room, and then there's a room in between, and then all the women are over here. But there are just so many different things to see and do in every place you can go to. It doesn't matter. In Tahiti, they do things different than they do in Rio. But, you know, it's all relative about the experience that you have. So I just encourage you, just go and see what other people are doing and what other places are like, because it is fascinating. I'm really excited about your project. That's why I want to talk to you about the class and see if you're getting ready to go. I'm ready to move and stay, but I certainly would like to go for an extended period of time. Again, because I've been many times and I've stayed at different amounts of time every time I've been, but it's always exciting to go anywhere now. Because every place is different, just like it is over here. State is different, the country over there.
Brother, did you want to acknowledge Lorraine? Thank you, my sister, my son.
A wonderful sister, Mayor, that she's ready to go to, she's actually going to Ghana with us in May.
Oh, I'm going in there. Okay. I haven't been yet, but you're
Just at that time.
Excuse me, family. Thank you. Only because the good brother here had your hand up earlier.
It's okay though.
But I know it's okay. It wasn't a question about okay or not okay. It's an opportunity, for anyone who wants to be heard or say something before we officially go, including anything, and I don't want to be remiss. I just met this brother for the first time. What's your name again?
Tyrone.
Brother Tyrone. Thank you, Brother Tyrone. Sister?
Well, I was going to bring my sister up to.
Yes,
to share
please.
something from me.
Thank you, family. Seize the
Bring
opportunity
my sister to say hello to
introduce
everyone
yourself.
to the camera and let them know that you're traveling to Ghana with us in May, and just let everyone know how you came up, wanted to go to Ghana with us, and how do you find us specifically? Because I guess maybe a few people still taking people to Ghana, but you found our information.
Oh, I've wanted to go to Africa for so many years. I have gone to different travel agencies and picked up brochures on different trips to Africa. And I held on to that. And I still have brochures dating back to 1970 that I picked up in New Jersey, and I just collected them. And every time I move, I go through those magazines each time, and it's in my heart to go. And you know, I was a single parent, raised 4 children, and I always kept that in my heart to go. And my ancestors, they were always talking to me, you know, in my spirit, like, let my blood touch home again. And so I never let it go. And I do vegetarian quite often. And I was in this vegetarian restaurant while I was waiting for my a raw food, myceli or something like that. And while I was waiting for my food to be prepared, there's this little alcove there, and it had all this literature about different things. And I saw this, and I immediately picked it up, and I'm like, no way. So I started thinking, okay, how much money have I saved? I don't care how much I saved, I'm giving it to this guy. And we're gonna work from there, right? And that's what I kept doing. I kept putting it on, you know, and he was helping with the paperwork and yeah, to show you how.
Divine.
Yes, when you keep your ancestors in mind, how they open up things for you. The work I do is I work with hospice, you know, in-house. I do it independently, I'm not with an agency. And it just so happened, I was coming like to the halfway mark, and I'm like, man, a client called me up, which was a referral from somebody else I had worked with a year before, and she said, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, okay, sure. And so she says, well, how much do you charge? So I thought about this, and I made this my hourly wage, okay? So when I was finished with her, I says, okay, I can give a big chunk here and just leave a little bit left, right? And that took care of it. And so the whole time I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, thank you. Okay, because it wasn't really a struggle, but it was just that I kept it in the forefront of my mind, and by doing that, things started coming towards me.
Absolutely.
So I'm going in May.
Yeah. Divine order.
Yes.
Yes, brother.
Wow.
Nice and loud.
Name is Brother Safari. Pardon me, I'm not going to stand right now. My knee is bothering me. I think I told it yesterday, so I won't tell it again.
We weren't there yesterday.
Yeah, I'm telling it again, sis. My awakening started when I was 18. I'm 46 right now. I went to a corner store. I was about 18, and this brother, he appeared to be like, I thought he was Middle Eastern. He was staring at me kind of funny, and at that time I used to drink, and I was in there for some beer or something, and I kind of had an attitude with him. I was like, why are you staring at me? He was like, I'm not staring at you. And then I'm thinking like to say something funny, like, you Middle Eastern guy, da-da-da. And then he said, I am you. And I was like, you're not me, so I said something like, I'm African, and he said, so am I. I said, no, you're not. You're from like, Pakistan or something like that. He said, I'm from Kenya. He said, where are you from? And that blew my mind. Because I didn't want to say Brooklyn. I didn't want to say Long Island. So it kind of made me search. And then he came from under the counter with this big old book. Boom! And he opened it up. And it had all this African information. And I was just shocked. And from that day on, I started coming up there, just kicking it to him. Like, he had so many stories to tell me. And he kept saying, where are you going to visit? And I didn't know. I didn't know it was just that simple as buying a ticket to go to Mardi Gras. Or going to, some type of game in LA or Chicago or something. We could travel and we could come up with money to do a lot of different things here in the United States. But we act like going to the motherland, which is, in my opinion, the most important trip. I've been to the Caribbean, I've been on cruises and things of that nature. But when we stun our growth. And one of the things, I got a chance to meet the brother Bumani over there 10 years ago. And we stayed in touch since then. Good brother. And we call each other all the time. 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes, he got something on his mind, he calls me. I call him. You up, brother? Yeah, I'm up. What's up? And he'll spit it, and I'll spit it. He'll be like, oh my God, going back and forth. So, I almost lost my train of thought, but we got money to go on this best trip. We got to sacrifice, or it shouldn't even be a sacrifice, we got to change our minds on the clothing that we wear and some of the things that we choose to put our money into. A big project that I'm working on now is making our own underclothes, making our own t-shirts, underwear, bras, stuff like that. Should have been done already, but it's something that we need to do, need to look into. As far as complaining and fighting the system over here, I met Sister Sash yesterday and I told her, sometimes we just have to back away from their system, their game, and just walk away from it. Because we've tried for years to come up with different petitions and different protests to be on the same platform with white America. And every time they remixed it, they reneged, they yes, it is. Yes. Yeah, it's not high, it's low. But every time we try to play along with their game, they switched it on us. They're never playing fair. So at some point in time, we gotta walk away. Say, I'm not playing anymore. And see how it goes from that perspective. Your first trip, you're gonna have a wonderful time. Wonderful
I
time.
am so excited. I'm trying to just contain myself.
We see.
Yeah, I'm trying to contain myself. And Bomani, he is such an angel because I bring all my papers over. I call him up, I says, do you have time to sit down and talk with me about my papers? And then we'll make a time arrangement. And then I go over and says, okay, what about this? He says, oh, well, we need to do this, we need to do that. Can I get a copy of that? Yeah, okay. What about this? Oh, well, you need to da. I said, okay, well, this is what I've done so far. This is what I need to do. Okay, how am I doing? Bomani is so patient.
It's true.
You know, he will definitely, he will walk you through, he will go over your papers with you. And someone like me, I knew I didn't want anything to go wrong. So I'm like, what do I need to do? And I did everything according to what he says. He has a list you print out. You check off the stuff off the list, you know. And me, I forget sometimes. And so he says, well, what about this? I'm like, oh, okay. And I just put a little line next to it. I got to do this, I got to do this, got to do this. And then it got down to the yellow fever. And he says,
the visa.
The visa, yeah, the visa, I got that out of the way real quick because something could go wrong, that'll take more time, so I did the visa first. And then got everything else checked off and then got down to the yellow fever. So I'm like, okay, I don't want any drugs in my system. He says, well, here's a doctor that does it, like holistically, blah, blah, blah. So I just got my yellow fever done and I went back over to his house. I said, here's everything. He says, you're all ready to go. And I'm like, yes! Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, but we can't do it alone. We all have to do it together. Oh, yeah. I know so much because when I went to get the yellow fever, the doctor that gave me the yellow fever, she ran into a few things, you know, like elevated blood pressure and stuff like that, right? And so when we were coming out, and like I was checking off, I gotta go back and see her tomorrow. And when we were coming out, I says to her, well, thank you so much for looking out for me. She says, I had no choice. She says, your ancestors were talking to me the whole time.
Okay. Okay.
Anybody else has anything they want to say before we prepare to close it out? Apara, anybody?
Sitting here all afternoon,
Get to choose.
absorbing everything. I'm really curious to know what you're thinking. Come on. It's just as friends. Whatever you feel like.
I just say a little bit. Up to this point, I haven't left this country. I intend to travel, but I don't intend to stay at hotels. I want to go to different countries in Africa, different parts of Africa. At this point, I'm looking like maybe Kenya. While we work to provide my service, that will help provide me with the means of livelihood while I'm staying there. That way, I can be in and amongst the people I'm living, to come to know it. But I don't, my choice off the top of my head is not to go to tourists. It's go to live for 2-3 months.
I'd like to ask everybody to come close to me, please. Come. I'd like to have a circle of love and light. I really appreciate you coming forth into this wonderful library. I thank Brother Amani for inviting me and Sister Teresa to come forth and share our travel experience. But it wasn't so much about us sharing our travel experience. I think it's now that I've had the experience, I think it was more a matter of us coming together on this beautiful Sunday afternoon to come see where Amani work is. Hey, look, and really we can utilize this facility anytime that we have programs. We're Fulton County that really touch and impact our community. You know this, brother. And it's no coincidence you do, so I just really, Amani, again, thank you for the request to much as required. So I would like for you to just stay comfortable and to engage the eyes of everyone in this circle at your time. Yeah. Do you see yourself in the eyes of your brother and sister?
I say,
Do you see that there's a balance in this circle?
I say,
Yeah, a brethren and sister. Do you see the elder?
yes.
Absolutely, Mama Anthony. We honor our ancestors. Just open our prayer. Close if you want to push it. You don't. You certainly don't have to bow your head. You might want to look up and live and thrive and grow and expand and evolve. And the ones in this circle now are really, 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 really special. Your light is very bright. Love is very strong. It's healing right here, right now. Someone we all need this. We always have what we need before we even ask. You know, it's in the accepting and allowing and really being grateful and, you know, this attitude of gratitude is not very fair. A lot of folks hang off and move and don't have a lot that we have, but we give thanks. That's basically what I said. We give thanks. And we give thanks for those whose shoulders we stand up on. And we give thanks for those that are not yet even born. And we give thanks for the righteousness and victory of our every endeavor. Let the circle be unbroken. Let the circle be unbroken. Let the circle be unbroken. Everybody gets close when we get up.
Hey! All right. I need to come. Hey, sister.
Oh, everybody's hugging. Yes, husband. Thank you.
I told Rob the other day, that was a party.
That was awesome. I'm going in May also. I'm going with you in May. I'm just letting you know.
Want to work with the babies?
Give me a call. We'll talk about it.
I do, and we're going to
Retired educator. I don't do a lot of stuff.
Are you only planning the tour, Ghana, or are you planning to move? Okay, well then you probably want to work most definitely close with us because we have, yes, we're going to talk about this. We're working to keep going and working very closely with us. We're working very
Hello.
You met my twin.